All right, we could start. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 18th, 2023 Communication Lower Salford Township Communications Committee meeting. Appreciate all the members being here. It's good to see everybody. First order of business is to approve our minutes from the September 2023 meeting. Hopefully everybody had a moment to check out John's minutes. Very good, John, like always. Thank you. Any corrections or suggestions? I did see one typograph, I think it said potential instead of potential. And I forget where it was when I read through it earlier. But
It's on 3, 2. Yeah.
other than that, everything else.
Yeah.
But I thought they looked great. Any other comments on the minutes? John, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as this talk discussed here? As Eugene, second.
A second.
Thank you, Terry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. Thank you, John. Our next order of business is to have public discussion or visitor comments. At this point, we welcome any members of the community who offer any kind of comments or suggestions. We're always open to suggestions for our committee or any members of our committee as well. All right, seeing none, we will move along to some old business. We're going to start off with the resident welcome letter and the packet. So for this one, we did discuss last month, and it's great having that YouTube. I get to rewatch it and kind of refresh myself as we get closer. But the idea is we did have discussion that was mentioned to the board of supervisors as well. The idea of having some kind of welcome packet going out to residents, and they said we can pursue that. See what we can do with that and bring it to them at a future time. So the first thing on our agenda here is a letter draft. For this one, I have a couple of ideas here. I know with the one thing that we did discuss, I did mention them too with the welcome packet, is that we would have a welcome letter perhaps from the chairman of the board. So that would be Chairman Bergman. So I'm thinking that with the letter draft, and correct me if we were going to do something else in addition, but I think that we could let that first welcome letter, be from the chairman of the board.
Is that an existing letter you're saying? Is there?
I don't know if there's an existing letter. I know, for example, and I don't want to misquote, but I know, for example, like I've seen, Chairman Gifford might have something in the past to welcome to the community on our website, on our newsletters. I know Chairman Bergman will write something welcome, we'll update, at the beginning of the newsletter. So when I mentioned it to the board, I did say with the idea, I said we would have a welcome letter, from the chairman, and then, oh, okay. So I would just go to him and say, would you like to put some kind of letter here? And I wanted to discuss that with everybody here.
So you're suggesting he would draft, we don't have to draft something and he just signs it. You're suggesting just ask him to draft something?
I would ask him first. Personally, I would, if somebody, did that to me, I could just sign it too, but I would want to have something too, but I would like to give him that option. And I think that's something that we could do with that first letter. If by all means, and you know what, it's good you say it, John, I could simply ask him if he'd rather us do that idea or if that would be something he would do. And if it comes back, then I think we can draft it.
Right. So in terms of the letter, the action's with you to talk to him and one way or the other.
I think, yeah, we'll leave it up to his discretion there. Our next order with this is the packet contents. Obviously, we discussed a quick reference guide. I think that is first and foremost important to get out to everybody. Hopefully everybody who's watching this uses those quick reference guides, and just for reference, pun intended, it really has a list of all the local amenities that we have to offer, being different clubs, different organizations. One thing we learned early on is that some people, residents of some residential facilities, said that they didn't even know that we had a community center and a pool. They just recently moved to the area, they get off the turnpike, they go home, then they go visit their family right back on the turnpike. And we want to let the people know that we have opportunities here. So the quick reference guide is definitely priority. The next thing we have is presumably a letter from the chair, whether we help draft or he wants to write that. After that, we were kind of open for ideas. I know we discussed how much weight we would want to do or what we would want to put in, but this is where I open up the discussion for anything for ideas from maps, letters, anything else here. Any other thoughts on this?
I think we had talked about the last version of the magazine newsletter, I guess, whatever it's called.
The most recent newsletter.
Right.
Okay. If we.
Is the newsletter the magazine thing? Okay.
Yeah, and that's sent out, it would be harder to put that in send envelope, something like that, but we could maybe do both. To send in addition, I don't know if we would be able to send them together. That'd be the only thing with that. Is everybody here familiar with the newsletters that arrive? Yeah. That's an option. The other thing too, though, I believe that the newsletter does, we actually were discussing this a little bit this morning, that it will try to, as we get more, we'll hit those residents anyway, as it comes out, the most recent one. I guess what you're saying is if somebody moves in and just missed it, they'll have to wait another few months there, there. I'm not sure how we do that, but I do like that if we can.
Yeah. It also depends on how often you see this happen. Is this a once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months?
Yeah, and because that'll ultimately dictate the price and all too, which is what we're getting into how we identify them next as well.
Right.
Hold that thought though as well. We'll put that down too, if we can get the newsletter out. Definitely worth checking. Any other suggestions? Besides the chairman letter, we have the quick reference guide, possibly newsletter.
How often does the map go out?
The map has,
It's like a one.
yeah, that's not, I know it's gone out this year, but I think it was a couple of years prior to that to go out.
Oh.
Other little things we could do though as well, is I know some of the residential facilities have requested and actually learned that they're printing out, Montgomery Woods, for example, is printing out their own just right off the website, on pieces of paper with a certain kind of maps or anything like that. And we do have in the vestibule things like that. That's always something we could add to, like a trail map, park map. They seem to be the most popular things grabbed. Because I often will come in and Holly will test, we'll have to print some up when we need more of them, so. Trail map might be a good idea, especially where people are, if that's something we could fit in and even get on a smaller paper. And then again, we want to drive people to our website, so we could always say, look at the website to see as well, but cost wise, we could keep it, down too, but I think a piece of paper wouldn't hurt too much. Any other suggestions? We could always explore, add, take away as we progress, and based upon what John said too, that does add another element.
And it's probably to be considered to not put too much stuff in there.
Right.
Is, everybody, I know when I get home and sort my mail, by the time I get to the third or fourth thing down, I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
That is true. That is true. And anybody who's moved around, I know, my wife and I, and even when we've had apartments, the houses, we get this from the post office, this from that. They're helpful. And honestly, if I had something that I saw township, I would be more intrigued. But you're right, you lose interest once you go a few more things.
Yeah.
You don't want to be redundant.
The critical thing maybe to get what's most important or eye-catching or draw their interest the most, so that they will take the time to stop themselves, maybe.
Right.
Check out stuff that's available in Lowry.
Yeah, it would be great. I always know things that catch, that end up sticking on our fridges. It's, somebody has a clever idea of maybe having a football schedule, baseball schedule, but not saying we should do that. But if we, the magnetic thing, like here's the QR code, maybe even just say, check this out, go to the website, relate to Drive. I don't know, but yeah, on that idea, yeah, just go to the website. Here's your reference guide. Your letter is effective.
Right.
Any other thoughts too? What else we could include before?
The text messaging. So we just went through that. There a 1-page summary that, I mean, we definitely want to drive them to the website. That's kind of referenced on the quick reference guide.
Right.
But is there besides the text messaging? So what I'm thinking is some kind of blurb that says, right, this is how you get text message. Right, Monco, sign up for these things, right, kind of thing. So as you're kind of indicating, without putting too much into the letter, how do we get them the information about how to get information? Website, text messaging, is there other things that if there was a one-page summary of that kind of stuff, if it was website, text message, is there anything else we would want to kind of highlight in terms of ongoing, now that you're part in the community, going, here is how you can get.
I think that's a great point, especially because that is one thing we're old business that we have. How do we allow people to know? And friendly reminder, anybody watching, you can now sign up for non-emergency on Ready Monco. But that is important to get that out there. Whether we do say to Chairman Bergman, hey, can we sneak this in somehow? Or maybe say we could draft things that we want to include in, or that might be easier. Here's a few things that we would like to include. So it's not too much. Right.
I know on here later,
Mhm.
you have to update to the quick reference guide, would that just be something to put on the quick reference?
I was gonna say that too. You also absolutely, yes, you open up a whole nother thing that's when we do that. When we do that near the end of the year, is that something we want to update? That was something we didn't have access to when we put that together, which is why we put version 1. But I think that's a great point. You open up a good thing. So maybe we should kind of go back and just maybe a few key things, not so much to say what kind of material we should have in there, but what do we want to relate? So we can't say quick reference, we do want that guy, but now we also want text messaging. I think that's important. Or anything else that we could relay to Chairman Bergman to say, include this, bless you. I think you have a great point with the text messaging, and it would be foolish not to take advantage of getting that, spending that time and that money to get out to that resident, let them know. So text messaging is definitely one thing. I think the other thing we want is just the website, which is included definitely in our reference guide. I'm trying to think if there'd be anything else that is that too. Text messaging, or that's great.
But also important what else we're putting in the packet for them. Like the quick reference guide, I think should be in the chairman's letter
Very
that
good.
includes is. You know, that,
Use this to whatever
right.
you like to do.
Mhm. Talking about the website.
And I can email him this week. You know, actually, I'll see him tomorrow as well. We have a dedication, and I'll definitely get his consensus on that then. So we have an idea, and so he would have an idea of how he would want to do it too. Very good, Terry.
The constant contact, I guess, there was reference on the website. But that might be another thing, if we can highlight in either his letter or our letter or something.
Right.
As something else to highlight that, hey. There's another thing that you can do to stay in communication with them.
And that's a great point too, because a lot of these people we're reaching to, they're not familiar at all with any resources
Right.
that we have. So, you know, they might not prefer text and just simply like what we have. So we want to point that out too. I like that constant contact, quick reference guide, website, text message capabilities. I think it's good to have the emergency only option, or, you know, if he wants to mention that too. That's important to let people know that they can do that.
It's basically everything we've been working on. We want
Recently,
him
yes.
to put in his letter.
That's a good point. Yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. These are good, and I think
So this one's a little quirky,
yeah.
right? But I know when I came into the township, I mean, it was a while before I realized that we had the 2 billboards up, right? Again, in terms of mentioning something to be able to say, oh, and by the way, keep your eye out for messages on our 2 or 2 billboards, right? That kind of stuff. Again, just trying to work it in, kind of thing.
And even just kind of, and to expand on that, keep an eye on, we have many different ways of notifying, see this, that, this, that. And that's your list here. We have to.
Yeah. But I think, back to your, original statement that, rather than trying to put too much into the packet itself, just tie them into where the information comes from, or where going forward as a resident, they can get the information. And some of this stuff, I think, is stuff that sooner or later they would find out about it. I think the welcome letter just gets them there sooner.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think this is, it's fair to say, to see how Chairman Bergman wants to do with this as well, because he might say, draft a letter, and he'll put something separate, or, because now that we are pointing these out, it's becoming more, make sure it says this, this,
But it
so.
would be nice if
But it
it's all
is-
contained in one letter.
It
so
would, it
people
would.
aren't reading 2 different things because
No
I
one
can
wants to
see
do
them.
that. Exactly, and that was a great point. Go ahead, Jean.
No, I was just gonna say, to highlight them in the letter is good, but then I think point out that information on all of these things is available simply by going to the township website.
Yeah, and hopefully, I would get a letter. If anything, I might just go, well, let me just sign up for this constant contact and see what happens, there, and then people see what we have to offer. But yeah, it's a great point, going to the website, you'll drive, because then you go to the website, that's what I meant, you go to the website, let me just do this, and oh,
Right.
look at this, look at that.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep the letter specific but relatively short. Because the first thing I want to do is, oh boy, am I gonna get all this information I don't necessarily need or want right now all the time.
Right.
So I think it's important to be succinct as possible, but hit the highlights so that they know where to go to get more when they're ready to get more.
That's a great point. I agree, and again, more information, less crowded way.
Right?
These are great. Any other contributions to this? I will follow up with him. See where we go next. Our next part with the resident welcome letter is how do we determine these residents, the new resident identification, and John has done some research here and gave us are these 2 different opportunities on both sides? I think want to comment on this? No,
Yeah,
I'll be that.
and to be I think this please is more appropriate for, I think, what I suspect will be a low volume for us. It's not gonna be, we're not doing a mailing of thousands of pieces, kind of things.
Right.
So I think, and like I said, I think I said last week, if you budget, if you figure for, $100 a shot, that at least gives you a number to kind of think about. As it indicates on here, the minimum was $62.50 for 250 leads.
And this is for a year. Right,
Well,
or
it's
just
per-
the access, I guess,
it's
per,
per poll.
okay, that makes sense. And that's
And
when we
then-
would decide
Right.
how often we want to do that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay,
And I think I mentioned last time, I think if you can get permission to at least cover one, I think we ought to do a test, right? And, we collectively come up with, okay, what are the parameters? It's not by township, so, we have to probably come up with what zip codes we want to pull, right? And then do a poll, say, all the new moves in the past 3 months, ask for new moves in the past 3 months, do a poll for certain zip codes. And then evaluate. We come in here and we look at it and say, okay,
scratch out it.
yeah, these addresses fit or not, but that's a test. The test would theoretically cost us $62.50 or something close to that.
And then based upon how many we had, we could try again perhaps in another, even 6 months, even, that's enough time where in a year, we're not gonna spend that much to try that. And if we have a substantial amount of new people, then okay, maybe we should do it sooner, or if very few, we can kind of go from there as well. I think that's great, and it does seem to fit the bill. So our next step is, should we put this information, I mean, we have the information right here, should we just present it? Any other thoughts on this, actually, before we say this, and the other option was this one that we should definitely explore this too, I agree. I remember you saying last time this one made more sense, the other one just. It looks like it's more specific age-wise and all that, but. It's price,
Yeah, and the cost was higher.
Yeah,
right?
125.
Roughly twice as cost, right?
yeah, I like the cost on the other.
If it's saying, so I just have a question. One says new movers is 121, one says 747. Is it because it's not so range or?
And last week, if you remember, I asked for, what we thought the number was.
Oh, so that's.
It does.
Okay,
And that's why I was trying to gauge how accurate this is. I didn't do enough research to see why this was coming up with 747. It might have been something I did about the selections, right? But
Could have been
again,
like a catch kind of thing too, to get you to, click here,
Yeah.
thing, pick up stage. But no, I
But
think price
I think-
was,
I mean, to get a count doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So again, if we come up with parameters, what I can do is go back to the websites. And share via email, right, what the parameters are, right? And via email, we can decide, okay. Which zip codes are we selecting, are we selecting on various parameters? Whether it's a. See what their accounts are between the two sites, and then. If we so choose, and the township's willing to foot $100, $62.50 or something like that, then pull the trigger. Get the results and then evaluate it, see if we think it's accurate enough, if we think it is in fact the new movers that we want.
I think that sounds good, and I think if you wouldn't mind, this is effective for me, kind of shows even just using this as an example is fine, or if you want to tweak it or anything, I like the way it is. And I think we should move forward. I think another thing that I might want to add to the agenda idea that we should discuss is, it might be hard, but it'll be easier before, because we kind of have everything intact right now. I'm seeing, we can almost there. The only other thing I think we're missing is how much it would cost to mail. And I think that might be something to have good information to say, okay, we have all this, we have these 6250, but what are we gonna do when we have this many people? How much? Because that's really where the real money is gonna be. So how should we proceed with that? Would we like to present all this idea first and then kind of see, because we could always get the results and decide it's too many people, or the price isn't there after the fact as well, but we also don't want to waste the money.
I think we had said, I mean, if just to get a cost, if you take a couple of sheets of paper, if you assume that there's a letter from the chair. Potentially a letter from us, a copy of the map. Maybe another letter with some summary information, fold it up, put it in an envelope. And see if
Yeah.
it weighs in.
That's a great point, yeah.
Figure out the postage and multiply it by 100.
I think that's a good point. And even if we don't have a specific letter, let's put the papers in, get the idea.
Right.
Okay. Simple enough. So, Holly,
Just wondering,
sure, please.
we search for. 1438, keep in mind that a lot of us we be paying for don't even go to the. So that would give you information. I'm giving them the more packet when we do the comments and they for South where they were. Or something.
Well, I think,
We would have this sort of way.
and that's what Absolutely, we discussed that last weekend and this, or last month and this one, that's what I think we're just saying, we would get them first, cross things out, because. Just like we saw. So,
Yeah,
Keys is
so the,
thought.
no, that's a good point, and we don't want just like the newsletter, we don't want.
so at least there's one service, the minimum of 250 was 60, so for 6250, you're getting 200, potentially as many as 250 wins, and we didn't think we would be that high if we did it on a regular basis. But absolutely, I mean, that's why I think we need to test the server. I
Right.
think we need to, do a run and see, I mean.
'Cause it might not be
if
worthwhile.
The list, sit here and have the list that's outside of the township,
Then that's not.
well, it's not a viable option.
That's something out, no, you're right. Yeah, and I mean, and the thought process though, just so you know, that was always the idea, is to cross it out, make sure we would give. And that's what we learned earlier with the newsletters, that can happen, it has a Harleysville address, but it's not Lower Southford, so. That's what we want to make sure we do avoid. I think the best, because if we use Harleysville, I'd like your idea of how to find it, I can't think of another way that we could. Specify Lower Southford solely by zip code there, so. Yeah. Okay,
You had your hand up.
sure,
And obviously we're running measures, correct?
stay again, just like,
Home ownership, correct? Even now if you're renting something in the township,
we figure on reaching to the renters again to remind them, once we have this welcome packet, we present it to our residential facilities to say, and this to them as well. Because that's postage we don't, or wouldn't need to do as well, if they're willing to do that. And I think. They were all excited at the idea when we went originally, I think it's worthwhile, as we're getting to it later in the agenda, as a reminder, but that would be the purpose, to save costs too.
So like renters might be on the list,
And I,
if they pull it from like, if you have a change of address.
True.
Like if I rent, I pay my address.
And there could be renters who. There could be renters who are renting from not necessarily a facility in the township as
Yeah.
well, and they move as well, right? So for those, we would then obviously.
Yeah, like
let me get a summary out of what parameters there are. Because I want to say that there was a selection of residents. Or something that, would they allow you to kind of filter out a homeowner versus a rancher?
Right.
I don't know.
No worries. I think we definitely covered, we're even jumping ahead, as I said here, this is great stuff, John. Thank you for this, and thank you everybody for ideas on this. I think this is a great idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we take this as well. Perhaps we could put this on for next month to follow up with the exact parameters and have more of an idea of where we would be with the letter, whether we would construct a letter or just simply leave that to Chairman Bergman, if that's the interest that they want to do as well. Any other thoughts on that?
My assumption is, since it's an assumption that more people will be moving during the spring, summer, early fall, and not winter. So when we do our parameters, we should probably keep that in mind, like how many days we'll be looking at.
Mhm.
And there's just one more question too as well, Bob and Terry's good point there, Terry. Is there any extra fee? It says custom date range up to a year, it looks like.
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it was probably based on the number of
The records that
addresses
they've had already.
you resulted.
Okay.
It's the resulting list. So as long as whatever parameters you use, as long as you're under 250 results, you're paying 6250.
And one more thing too, which might be even more beneficial as to what Holly was addressing too, is it does say you can target people who live in a certain number of miles from a location. So if we could pinpoint center, we could probably, and I know there's maps I could do, I do it with my kids all the time, and see how much we could cover. We could essentially say, hey, we're only hitting a little bit outside. We have a nice little square kind of top shape. There it is right there. of Lower Southford, so it could fit pretty well in there, just that little head. That's another thought too. Oh, perfect. I think this is a lot of progress and worth definitely continuing for next month and hopefully including ideas. Any other comments on this? Sure. Very good. Okay, moving along. We have off-site meeting, so site options and with this whole thing I'm gonna read, we have site options selections, resident outreach options, example advertising session, and agenda topics. So this relates to the idea as we discussed and also mentioned the supervisors of us potentially meeting as the park board will meet different parks, meeting at different residential facilities to get a different perspective on this. So I did get a list of the facilities that we do have. And actually. Had a list. I printed up copies and something else as well, but the list. Oh, I know what the list is. It's right here. It's on the back of this to save paper. What I have is I put them in the alphabetical order in Arbor Square, The Birches, Mark Twain, Montgomery Woods, Parkview at Oakcrest, Pheasant Run, Valley Manor, Village Square Apartments. These are all the apartments that we previously contacted, given the information to. And that's our list there. So they're the ones that we have. Now, one thing we did discuss is maybe not each facility would have the capabilities of hosting us. So for that, one thing that I thought, and, I'm open to any other ideas here as well, but how we reach out to people. I drafted just kind of a letter we can kind of just go with. I know we talked about an idea of a letter and possibly drafting one. Please, this can just be a guide to see how we want to do this. But I thought just kind of have a basis, and I made it similar to what we had before. I started off just explaining what we do, when we meet, as you can see, and then our meetings typically consist of. But we always welcome new ideas. I'll let everybody take a moment to read if you want. I just funny. Goes.
The games, right?
And one suggestion is move the ask up front. Right?
Sure.
To possibly put, I mean, the first sentence, the last paragraph is where you have, if you would be interested in hosting. Right, so that's where you finally kind of get to the ask.
Sure.
Right?
I'd lose it
I
for
would-
that.
Just ballparking this, I would probably put it in between the first and second paragraph, so. Where the communication committee, we usually meet here, right? Would you be interested in hosting one of our meetings at your location? And then kind of explain it, right? So get that,
I think
get
that's
that
good.
ask out.
Another thing I left out, I noticed after I'd written this out the other day was a contact, whether I put the email right in there, but I just wanted to use this as just something that we would have to base so we can go, okay, let's go here. And but yeah, I think where we would want to put an email in, whether I want to put a big contact at the bottom, at the top, or to sneak it into the letter. But John, you have a great point too, and that is something as sitting here reading it too. Because I even thought of saying we would love the opportunity, to kind of catch a little bit like that. Hey, but I think a lot of this would be. I'll definitely move that up, but a way we were going to get it to them, rather than even email it to them. We've had contacts with these. I wouldn't mind knocking, saying it, and I think it's helpful then to have that conversation right away, whether to kind of lean on what do you think? Oh, how would we do that? Well, here's what we're thinking. You have any other questions, reach out. But and that said, I'll move that up. I like that idea. Any other comments or things that we want to add, take out? Again, this is just a general idea. Do you think I should put the email in the letter or put a contact at the bottom? And I was going to put our communications.
As a recipient, I usually expect it to be at the bottom
With the signature. Okay.
I think my eye would automatically kind of go there to look for the contact information.
I think it would stand out more
I agree.
Would this be on a letterhead of any kind?
Um,
Township?
yes, we could put this on a letterhead, correct, Holly? Absolutely.
There's some contact information in the letterhead?
Our letterhead. Office.
It wouldn't have the communications email specifically on it, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think putting it on a letterhead is.
yeah.
That's,
You can just add the communications committee specific contact.
okay. Any other thoughts on this? And I'd be happy to just draft this out, get this right back out to us.
Be interesting, it's gonna be interesting to see if. Who bites on.
Yeah. And that's what it is. I kind of leave it open where, you know, they want to discuss, well, how, you know, what's next? How,
I would make sure that you clarify.
Oh.
When you say we go to the park, the township home. If they go to the golf course, it's because I'm from the golf. We're not part of these facilities.
right,
The opening of a huge can of worms and not being prepared for what people may bring to the field. Do you know what I'm saying? This communication board is communication. You're not the supervisors of the township. So. My only concern is people not thoroughly understanding what we do
right,
and what you folks do. Coming to these meetings in a very large public place. And starting something that nobody has. The answers for, or that nobody has even. I just don't want it to. Evolve into something that makes the township look like we don't know what we're talking.
That's really
And I've
good.
seen things like that happen in regular meetings in this room. So. I just tread lightly.
no, understood, and yeah,
That's just advice from someone who's been here for 20 years.
and I appreciate that, that's important to consider, thank you. One thing that, I just want to clarify too is. This is just starting the talks, and then, you know, if someone says, oh, we could do it here, okay, our immediate, and I know we discussed kind of the idea, is then to go to the township and say. Okay, they're interested, how do we do this, how do we go from here? So this is not, just because someone says you can have it here. We in no way think of it as, oh, you know, as.
You might want to have some, it's like, about the parameters, John, with the names. Because then if you don't. And you've already sent the letter. Like, I think you should probably have something in mind as to how this is going to go along. So that when somebody does call you, that you have all the answers, not, hey, I'll get back to you after I talk to the supervisor. That type of.
In other words, have it set up the second block of information.
It's going to be like. Here or.
And that's why,
People often look at the township as. Not good, let's look at that, because they think we're government. So often people will come and they'll be like. Why can't we do this? Why don't we have 20 glass backboard in the top? Yeah, this,
It's
we have that.
it's a great point, and one thing. And one thing that we have, which, you know, is further that we're discussing with these is how we reach them. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's going to be flyers displayed in the laundry room, agenda. So everybody would hopefully, and this is all, like I said, we're not just going in, they would have a general idea of what's happened. I mean, unlike a park board where people are outside in a park, I think you can be more likely to run into people who might be walking by saying, oh, what's this? And not having any clue as to what's happening. Whereas our hope is that everybody going to this. In fact, some of the things that we have for agenda ideas, jumping a little ahead, but just to rest you assured, is to how to have interaction with them based solely upon communication. So these are great points, but I think just rest assured that we're not going in without some kind of parameters there. And the reason that I think we discussed or would want to have this, hey, here's your letter, is because they might say, well, we can't have people here. We can have people here. We can only have 20 people here. What if we can have this? And all that would be related to see if it's even a possibility. So the reality is this is just an idea. We're hoping, you know, but we have to make sure what we have there. Thank you. But no, I appreciate, I
Holly-
appreciate your thoughts,
Holly-
that's could change this.
Topic is topics, right? So, as you said, even if you have the stated parameter that we will have a set agenda with set topics, and that is all we're talking about. And if anybody brings up, and everybody knows ahead of time, if anybody brings up anything else, it's like,
Look at our website, what we can do is direct
Yeah.
them to our website, send an email.
it's not on our topics. We're sorry, but we're not discussing it here.
So that said, not to, any other, so we have our letter draft, so again, anything else we wanna, because we do have these here. But that's another good point too, is perhaps maybe we should have a discussion with Joe, so if somebody does say, hey, I might be interested. And again, we might not have any interest, and there might not be any interest at all, but then we could immediately say, okay, but my next step would be, well, this is great. We'll get back to you now that we know that you're interested. And, you know, I think I would be clear to let them know this is the communications committee, and they've had interactions with us before and bringing maps and stuff like that too.
I think people are gonna ask questions.
Yeah.
That we're gonna be unable to answer, and then we're gonna come off as in a bad light, because it's not gonna be our purview what we do, so. I'm a little concerned.
I think if we have the agenda, I mean, those concerns, they're definitely something to consider, but again, having the agenda, we could kind of stick to that. I mean, you're gonna run into the same thing. At a park board meeting in a park, you know, that you wouldn't have. That there right away, and I mean, if we don't decide to do this, we don't have to do this too.
Yes.
Would you wanna? Should we continue to communicate, or do you not like it altogether?
I am more concerned as the more we discuss it, I'm becoming more concerned. I just don't want the township to come off in a bad light. If we can't answer their questions, because you know they're gonna ask questions that we're not gonna be able to answer, to respond to, and then they're gonna walk away angry, like, well, what good are you, basically?
I agree that people might have concerns and questions that wouldn't be necessarily on our topic, but I kind of also see it in a way, whereas. If I'm a resident, I see the township coming to have a meeting there, I'm out at the park with my kids or whatever, and I see a meeting. I have the opportunity to listen and get involved, to me, and I can't speak for everybody, to me, that gives a better light to the township. And if I say, hey, I got something on my road, there's this pothole that's been driving me crazy. Thank you so much for coming. This is this meeting here, we're at a park board meeting, but whatever. But you can go to that website. Did you know that we have this information, or we have a lot of information on our website? And they might think, wow, I didn't know I could go to the website. I didn't know that the township would be willing to help me with that or to consider. That's.
I think we need to look at our population that we're going to be presenting to, frankly. That's huge.
So maybe there's a middle ground there. It's not an open attendance. Held it off-site, but restricted attendance to folks who signed up ahead of time, right? And so that the facility would have to vet the names, right? And somehow limit in-person attendance, right? And so it wouldn't be totally an open session. It wouldn't be, anybody walking in. A little bit more controlled in terms of attendance than.
I see what you're saying. Personally, I like the idea of just, I don't like that idea. I like the idea, if I'm here at a meeting and I'm here until, I'll tell them I might not go home till 11 if we have 50 people here. I want to hear everybody, and I like the idea of, the point I think of going there is for people who might not have the means to get here, might not have the internet accessibility to hop on a Zoom. So I see what you're saying, and that might be helpful at that facility, but if they have to limit, I would rather not have that opportunity personally. I don't know. But this is interesting. So we definitely maybe we can put this one on the sidebar for now.
I think this needs more thought.
Okay, no worries on that. So again, agenda topics, stuff like that. Another thing we could do, if we stick with the agenda, finish up with these agenda topics, if we could also, and we discussed in the past, of reaching out and saying, hey, this month's, we have a special discussion with anybody who lives in our residential facilities. encourage people, if we really make like a propaganda, like really kind of make an ad to publicize our meeting. Hey, come here. Reach out to the facilities managers, say, hey, send out an email with our Zoom link to your residents so that people can log on, keeping the meeting here. That could be another way that we could try our best to reach them if we don't do that. And if we did do that, we could suggest that they email residents, they could create a flyer to be displayed in laundry rooms or offices. Another thing I was gonna do if we did go on site though, is to kind of get people is offer maps or materials that are typically found in our vestibules that they won't have, but that's something that we could just follow up on as well. I think we can definitely move this on for next time for some consideration here. Offsite meeting, but I like the idea of also, as we said, making it even simpler, because this we could start doing next week. Make a push to just get people in here, and say, hey, we're gonna have maybe a survey in the back. Because another thing we could do is have the same survey. There might be residents who might not have gotten that, or encourage people to leave feedback and come to this. Hey, we want to have residents come here. Anything we can do to kind of market them would be a whole nother way. And that gets rid of the idea of having to go out.
What were the places again that you had listed?
Sure. So we're Arbor Square, the Purchase. I can give you a copy afterward if you want there too. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a picture. And they're the ones we've contacted in the past as well. But I think we can definitely table this for next time and give us some thought here. Thank you, everybody, for all of that information. We make good points and appreciate it. Next order of business is the Township Communication Tools and Channel draft review. John did send out communication channel that we have, and with lead time, I think we've also left some information for target audience potential fees. Is that what we wanted to kind of go through today?
Yes, today or future meetings, as we kind of come up with it, the columns across the top were just things that I thought would kind of be useful for someone looking at the list and saying, okay, is this communication channel something I want to do for this particular topic? Is it the audience I want to reach? Is the lead time something that works for me, et cetera? But I'm open to any suggestions in terms of what attributes we capture, right? The columns, as well as any corrections, updates to the list, the rows.
I don't think I have a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my phone is not making copies of this one. I printed that up at home. I think you definitely covered everything last time.
It's the stuff that we brainstormed last,
Right.
the list that we brainstormed last time.
I couldn't think of anything additionally that I saw. But yeah, I think looking that over, we can definitely choose to add to that. I wouldn't even mind making that a business item, but okay, let's go right here. How many do we can talk right through that? But as far as reviewing, I agree with that. All the measures on there don't have anything additional to add. Because again, this is everything we did go over last time as well. Did a good job covering that. And just for anybody watching, this has the different things that we have, such as text messaging, our newspapers, websites, emails, billboards, newsletter, door signs, and just how much time we would need to relay that information to our residents. So I think next time we can go over that as well, just kind of make sure. I don't think we'll have anything new to add, but if we do, we can. But I think it's worthwhile talking about our target audience and potential views on each one, breaking it down. Thank you, John.
And in terms of contact information, Holly, would you have the contacts for each of these, or?
No, it's gonna be, it's for our needs. I think with the context, a lot of them, we don't wanna. we might not have to discuss like phone numbers of contacts and whatnot at the meeting, but we just make sure we have a contact on file for the staff as well.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, I was saying with the contact names and whatnot, I think we can definitely do that, even, I think it's appropriate, it doesn't have to be done, you know, there's phone numbers and whatnot at the meeting, but I think make just to clarify that we do have contact information for that as well.
Yeah, I don't remember getting that at all. Was that sent out to us or were?
Yeah,
It was in one of the emails that I done.
yeah, I think it was a separate email.
Oh, God, I don't remember. I don't remember either.
No worries, I can make
Yeah,
copies.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'll send it again. Yeah, great.
That'd be great.
Do you have this in an email that you could?
Yes, yeah,
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 that's, you know, fill it in.
yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
That's all you need to.
All right, then we did discuss last time our yearly update to the township quick reference guide. I kind of like the way we laid it out, and especially as we were talking today, realizing that we can update it too. I think in November, as you laid out here, we go over the list review. Not just kind of make sure we have all the appropriate things on there, anything we want to add. And then as we discuss, kind of just go, okay, somebody take these two, make sure that all the contacts are appropriate. Confirm that at our December meeting, and come January, we'd be ready to publish our latest quick reference guide. So I think that's laid out as well. I think everybody good with that? And Eric, great, it was a great way we got to that too. I think that's important that have set forth the future of the committees. We continually update them as well. All right. With that, we have any new business? I think we've already laid out some new business for next week or next month.
Uh-huh.
Don't have to be here next week. You're welcome to be here next week. We will have, I think we have there will be a meeting next week. Planning commission might be next week. That'd be the fourth week. But with that, I want to go back to public comment. Any other comments or anything anybody want to add? I think I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Again, we do cover a lot. Great, we get into everything. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I have nothing else to add. If anybody else does.
I think we're good.
Very good meeting, everyone. With that, we have a motion to.
We're gonna do that next meeting.
Next
is-
meeting is, thank you to clarify, be the third Wednesday. Next month, specifically. It was on our calendar this morning. Yes, November 15th. I'm actually glad you mentioned that, just make sure. Anybody okay with the 15th? So
As far as I know.
Thanksgiving week, I was double checking, so that's good.
Yeah, but
All right, I was glad you mentioned that. Like, oh, yes, I will be good. So November 15th here and on Zoom. See more people there as well. All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second,
Second.
Terry, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Thank you,
Thank you.
Holly. Done.